Hype Network presents.
On this episode of Season 4, let's talk.
I like large scale paintings. Whenever my professors ask us to paint something, I'll paint it a lot bigger than the others, and it excites me. And knowing that street art involves a lot of elements, a lot of externalities, and the fact that I know how to define myself in the streets, um, yeah, that pushed me further in engaging into the street art realm.
Hey folks, welcome back to the Rajiv show. Wow, another recording with one of the legendary personalities. I don't know how to introduce this legend because a little bit of backstory before I introduce her and get her into the conversation is, of course, she is one of those legendary mural artists here in Baguio, where I live, and she has done some phenomenal works in Baguio. If you guys are planning to visit Baguio, we'll talk about that in the conversation ahead. And what else could I say about this legend? Aside from, of course, the unexpected conversation and the unexpected meetup that we had in Ilika. Uh, let me cut to the chase. So, ladies and gentlemen, my guest today, Venazir Martinez. Hey, girl, how are you doing?
Hi, Rajiv. Thank you for having me in your wonderful and purposeful show. I'm doing great, and the weather is nice now in our conversation.
Yeah, I
Am I right?
yeah. For those who are tuning in, by the way, folks, prior to this conversation, 3 weeks, consistently, we've had like continuous rains here in La Trinidad area, Baguio area, and of course, other parts of the Philippines as well. And it's been crazy. And today, in this conversation here with the legendary artist that I'm having a conversation with, um, the sun decided to shine. So I believe it's going to be a good day for this conversation and this podcast. Of course, Venezir. Aside from the um, grand introduction that I gave, could you give a little bit of background about yourself to my guest, to my listeners? Sorry.
Um, okay. So first and foremost, I am not a legend. I'm not a legend. What are you saying? I just paint the streets and I just I just befriend the community. That's not how legends do it. So I don't know. Okay, so to formally introduce myself, my full name is Venazir Hannah Martinez. Yes, I have a Hannah, but you can call me Vena or Venazir.
Interesting.
And I call myself a visual entrepreneur and a street muralist to visualize stories of people or cultural advocates who are capable of progress within my community or in Baguio City or even in the Philippines.
Hmm.
So I use um, their stories as a means to communicate and advocate uh, through the use of street art. And yes, so basically that's what I do, I guess.
Interesting. Interesting. Right off the bat, of course, art. That's where we connect. I'm also an artist, and for those who know me, I'm also an artist, and that's where we connected and sing. But before we get into that Pandora's box of the art, before we open that box, of course, let's take it back a bit. Let's take a time travel and go back to high school. I don't want to put some sound effects, but yeah, let's go back in high school. If you and I were high school
Yes,
classmates, If you and I were high school classmates, who were you in high school in terms of personality? Are you the shy person, the introverted, extroverted, the sporty type, the competitive type? Who were you if you and I were classmates in high school? I gotta ask.
Well, um, if you and I were classmates in high school, I'd probably be your uh, classmate who normally, well, obviously, the one who's creative and the one who excels in drawings, stuff like that, poster making contests.
Interesting.
But yeah, yeah, my personality, aside from being the artistic one, I am really inclined uh, on student service, student how do you say this, student leadership. And back when I was in high school, uh, um, my my whole high school life revolved around planning events along with my student council, and I was elected as the vice president of the student body in my university. So, uh, eh, because my high school back then was a laboratory school, it
Hmm.
is an annex basically of a whole university of colleges. So basically, I've been so basically, that soft skill that I learned from student council paved gave me opportunities today
Hmm.
in communication skills, because ayun, basically dun ko kasi nakuha yung kapal ng mukha ko sa pakikipag-usap sa mga higher-ups. So I think, so yun, yeah, and that leader classmate you have next to your seat. I'm not really academically inclined.
Huh.
I'm not a nerd. Back in high school, I don't really study a lot in terms of academics, but I am that classmate who excels in extracurricular activities. And
Hmm.
I'm also your classmate who who joins a lot of organizations and leads them.
Yeah.
And that classmate who who is a representative of the taekwondo, the
Oh,
taekwondo
interesting.
community. I guess. Yeah, yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. So I used to, back when I was in high school, I used to represent my school and the region I am in. Back when I used to study Interlock, so I used to represent them in terms of poster making, editorial cartooning, or in sports, in taekwondo,
Hmm.
and the like. So I'm not normally in the classroom. I'm outside the university doing my thing. So yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. Aside from the art stuff that you've mentioned in the opening, you've opened up a lot of boxes here. Creative leadership, event planning, and taekwondo. Um, uh, be- but before I actually open into those types of conversation here in this episode, um, I noticed that yeah, you mentioned leadership quality, and I gotta ask though, how would you define yourself in a personality kind of setting? Like, how would you define yourself in a personality setting? Would you consider yourself ambivert, extrovert, introvert, or inverted? What type of personality would you fall under if you were to classify yourself?
Um, I wouldn't say I'm fully an extrovert because um, I am actually a fan of the Myers Briggs personality types.
Hmm.
and I am an ENFP. ENFP is an extrovert and intuitive and stuff like that, something like that. But ENFP is actually the most introverted extrovert among all personality types. So I'm not necessarily an extrovert.
Hmm.
You can say that I'm an ambivert, but of course, I am more comfortable with people.
Hmm.
But most of the time, I want alone time. Right now, but back in high school, I'm really an extrovert. But I managed to balance my need for social interactions, and I realized the value of um, meditation
Hmm.
and appreciating the time you have alone. And because that precious time alone is rare for most people, and I get to think a lot, and since I get to think a lot, I get to think creatively, and
Hmm.
that's how I create works. So back if I'm in my introverted mode, I am in this space, in this creative bubble
Hmm.
that I use to for my creative interventions. And if I'm in an extroverted mode,
Hmm.
that's how I use my communication skills for profession and sometimes for emotional fulfillment. So that's that. I think that that's how I sum up my personality in terms of communication,
Interesting.
social social skills. Yeah.
Interesting. Wow. That's very, very, very deep. Very very deep in the introspection. It's really interesting. It's very hard to find people who have the ability to introspect themselves in terms of the character that they play as human beings, and the personality is very, very thing. And I gotta admire that you know yourself well enough, and more power to you.
Thank you, Rajiv. Yeah, it's actually not instantaneous to get there,
Hmm.
because I've experienced a lot of course, heartbreaks from friends, from your relationships with others, but you'll manage it once you've experienced those kinds of moments that builds up your personality.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's how I developed that kind of how do you say this? You get my point.
Yeah, yeah, I do. I'm actually there with you. I feel like visually, this type of conversations are rare gems for me personally. Um, it's very hard to find people who share the same philosophy, and then, you know, um, it's nice that we're starting with the philosophy and then we're building into the creative side. And while we're at it,
Yes.
let's talk about philosophy here. I mean, as artists, depth it create some certain artists, especially those that are in deep with their art, have very, very deep philosophies, and sometimes transcribing a story that is from your heart in form of
Yes.
an output creates this dynamic. Some people don't understand, especially with the abstract. I'm sure you agree with me. Abstract artists, when they create stuff, it's very hard to distinguish what is this, what are they trying to define here. And then it's
Yes.
it's it's really, really powerful. And to put that into perspective, and to put the philosophy of an artist, it's very, very, very powerful. um I didn't expect to start off with the philosophy here. But yeah, we'll talk about the arts, how we create the artistic stuff, because uh philosophy matters in terms of art. um and I'm sure my guest today also agrees with me that your philosophy matters. Of course, for certain artists, sometimes it takes a lot of thinking. It takes a lot of thinking to create something, and sometimes a lot of the artists, especially amateur artists, they create an output that is probably just to, it's a sense of accomplishment to some people, and but for artists who are really in depth with the art, it's really truly powerful. I want to connect that
Yeah,
to
I agree
uh,
with you. Because your connection with your spirituality deepens your involvement in your creative production. And I do believe in that. That's why whenever I meet a lot of um, deeply rooted individuals, I I guess they influence me a lot in terms uh, of spiritual development. That's why that's a big chunk of my mm, when it's that's a big chunk of my on finding inspirations for my work, and that's how I develop it and redevelop it, reconstruct, deconstruct, and that's how I roll.
powerful. This is really, really a powerful and interesting thing. I don't know how many interestings I have. For those who are listening, if you guys got a clicker, let me know. Uh, but yeah, I want to connect this to something that you mentioned in high school, leadership. Um, you mentioned your personality and leadership. I gotta ask though, when did uh, in terms of leadership, as far as in terms of experience of what I know in leadership, some people has got the thing, and then I do not know if my words are right here. I might say this. I hope I'm not offending any of the leaders. But as far as I'm concerned, in terms of leadership, there are certain types of leaders who are born with the innate skill of communicating and then
Yeah,
transcribing and
public
stuff like that.
speaking and the like.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
some of them are born with it, and some of them are, they grew up with
maybe.
people, yeah, people who come from that background. I gotta ask you though, in terms of leadership, where do you fall in terms of being the natural thing? Did it come from the family side, or it was the environment that, Jack on the other side is doing this, and then I want to one up him? Are you that kind of person who wants to one up your classmates or whoever you were in thing,
Who
or
has a
it was,
competitive side.
yeah, yeah, in terms
But
of
I
leadership?
think first and foremost, since my one of my core personality is that I am an empath.
Hmm.
I connect with different humans, different set of personalities,
Hmm.
and easily. And I don't even have to try. I I connect instantly with them, and I guess I fall under the familiar influence gets type
Interesting.
of leadership, because my brother is actually a student leader himself,
Hmm.
and we used to work together since we studied in the same university. And no, I was in high school, and
Hmm.
his university was the mother university.
Hmm.
So that was in Tarlac State University. I was in high school, and he was in college,
Hmm.
in the College of Science
Hmm.
and Technology. College
Hmm.
of Science and Technology. So he was the student council vice president there, and I was a student council vice president in the high school department.
Hmm.
So we used to work together and build um, leadership trainings, and what is this? Student activities. We planned them in one conglomerate. And
Wow.
yeah, I guess that my experiences in high school led me to where I am now, and that formulated a pillar of servitude within me. Although I don't join a lot of organizations these days because um, priorities change. I want to be with my family more, and at the same time, I want to focus on growing my career as an artist. And um, although now I have several organizations that um, I organize with, but I am not the point person.
Hmm.
But I am still present to help, and so yeah, that falls under servitude. You know, um, with nothing. When servitude means serving other people without
Yeah.
expecting anything in return, right? So that's how that's how I roll again. And
Uh,
yeah, as a student, no, I mean, as an individual
hmm.
with leadership skills honed, I think, yeah, it helped me a lot in getting to where I am now. Yeah.
Interesting. I'm just blown away. Uh, to be honest, with all the surprise conversations that we had, I never knew that my guest is very in depth, and this is a feast for my brain right now, trying to digest every single word that my guest is saying because
Thank
it's
you.
really powerful. This is the reason why I say you're a legend, is because that in depth and the storytelling is really really powerful, and uh, uh, thing. Uh, in terms of creative leadership stuff, I mean, this goes back to the conversation about leadership. Um, yeah, you mentioned also on the other side that you're not an academic type. Of course, you're out of class. You mentioned that very distinctively. Is that you
Yes.
you've had the experience of um, doing a lot of things. Especially you mentioned earlier also is that being the vice president, and you also mentioned your brother. How do you guys, in terms of getting creative, one upping each other? How do you guys have that conversation? How is the sit down? Is like, is it around the dinner table? Mom, dad, everybody's in the table, and then you're in front of your brother. Hey,
Well,
bro.
my siblings and I are really close. Also,
Yeah,
my sister, who is the middle child.
yeah,
I'm the youngest,
yeah,
eldest, my brother, and we always go out for coffee
mm,
whenever I go home here in Tarlac because
yeah,
they stay here.
yeah,
And normally my brother would be in BGC in Manila, but since it's pandemic,
mm,
he went home,
mm,
and the three of us always go for coffee. And my relationship with my brother is very intellectual. Our conversations are stimulated by theories, by thought provoking stories. And my
interesting,
sister and
interesting.
have this emotional relationship, especially about, if it's about boys, if
Yeah,
it's about our past relationship. So that kind of thing. So normally my brother and I uh, click bec- click intellectually because of our servitude for
interesting.
our university.
Interesting.
Yes, and
The way you
yeah,
mentioned it
I'm
is
really
that
close with them.
it's really interesting. The way
They're
the way
actually
you
my best friends.
the way I hear it is that you got best of both worlds here in terms of having the perfect balance of coffee or tea, or the drink that you drink on a daily basis. You got the milk on 50%, and you got the sugar at 50%, and then you got the coffee, which is your
50%
creative.
sugar.
you know
No.
but you got the balance right, though. You got the balance right. I'm
Yeah,
bad with
yeah.
math, so I'm just trying to
Yeah.
you know you got 100% of creative chica, if that's the word. uh,
So I'm really, really blessed for having such supportive family and loving siblings and loving parents and loving community. And I don't know what to say for my life. I think I can die now. I mean, if balance is what you seek in life, then I guess I've attained that,
Hmm.
and I can never ask for much
Yeah.
of this. And I'm really at this point now that I can say that I'm really happy and contented with what I am doing, with where I am now, with how my family and I bond.
Hmm.
And although I'm really selfish in saying this, I really thank the pandemic that it happened for my family, because since the pandemic, my family hit them hard.
Hmm.
My dad was my dad almost died because of COVID-19, and I've spent more than more time than ever for my family, and I think I need that now to balance everything that where I left off when I was in college. Na I
Hmm.
don't usually go home here in
Hmm.
my hometown, but now um, I can do both. I can work in Baguio for a week. I can go home whenever I want, and so that's my life currently, presently. So I
I
thank
had
the
a
Lord.
I I have a follow up question, but before I actually have the follow up question that I have in mind, would you love to give some shout outs to some few folks before we continue the conversation? I'm sure our listeners out there, probably mom, dad, everybody, if you want to
My
shout out,
folks, like my folks,
yeah,
or what
everybody,
folks?
everyone
My friends
who
or
you
my
want to do a
family?
shout out, you
Okay,
know.
so first and foremost, yeah, my family. I'll have or shout them out. My sister Vay, Kuya Nico, Mama, and Papa. Uh, Hello, I am at a podcast again.
The follow up question that I had in mind, yeah. Um, you mentioned brother, you said intellectual, and then sisters more of the way I hear it is more like the gossip, gossip girl kind of conversation. Alam mo, sinabi niya, and all that stuff.
Yeah, but normally
I'm
we
just
don't talk
curious,
about
the
normally we don't talk about human beings. That's really the chika. No, we're not trying to
yeah,
gossips and stuff. So um, I'm not really into that as well.
memories
But
probably.
yeah, we talk about our relationship a lot, my sister and I, because um, specifically
Interesting.
about our boyfriends. So that's how it goes. Well, it's very personal, emotional, things like that.
Yeah, interesting. This is my. I'm a visual person, so this is when you said um, you have this conversation. I actually wanted to come back to that visual conversation. Now I'm changing the settings into a coffee shop, imagining you in front of your brother having that conversation. Um, the way I envision this is what I see in my head is that what's up, bro? Today, this week, this year,
I don't call him
I've
bro.
accomplished this. No, I mean, yeah, I mean, this is how I envision you guys having a coffee, having the chai latte, whatever is trending, iced tea, milk tea, and all that whatnot, and then you're listing out your brothers. Brother starts with the conversation and says, "Hey, sister, this is what I've done. That 1, 2, 3. I've done this year. I've done this year. Accomplished this. What have you done?" Is it that kind of
No,
conversation
not much
in the
about
beginning?
not
What's
much about what we've done. You know,
yeah.
more like on a theoretical basis, I guess. Normally we would talk about my my plans for my next mural, things like that, or political
Futuristic.
overviews. So I
Interesting.
guess that's about it. But before, when I was in
Interesting.
high school, yeah, we talk about our obligations as student leaders, but not so much because it was his thesis day. So I don't even understand about IPs. So I guess that's about it. And although we are a family
Interesting.
of creatives, my sister is a creative. My brother is inherently creative as well. He draws humans well, even without formal education. And
Wow.
that's how we roll,
And
working as
then,
siblings.
how about your sister? What's her
My
specialty?
sister
If your
focuses
brother
on
dominates in anatomy.
my sister focuses on digital illustrations, and she works for Canva and
Oh,
a few other companies, advertising companies. So she's basically a freelancer, but she's a slave,
hmm.
corporate slave. Sure.
Oh, oh,
But I'm not
oh,
against
interesting.
anything about corporate slaves, but of course it's a different thing if you pursue what
Yeah,
you've originally created, and I
yeah.
believe in that.
To each his own.
Mhm.
Probably to each his own. To each his own when it comes to creative stuff. Wow. This has been powerful. We went in depth philosophy. We got to meet the family, and if the family is tuning in, shout out from here. From I'm Rajiv Doriswamy, the host of the Rajiv Show. Shout out to my guest's family. I hope you're enjoying this conversation because I'm loving it.
Thank
Uh,
you.
like I said, I love connecting. I mean, I love connecting with people who have that in-depth, introspective conversation. For me, I want to share. I think I've shared this with a couple of my old conversation. Is that in college, high school? I mean, once I got older, I got into the college stuff. I'm not the type of guy who that hangs around with people as often. Um, it's just a little bit of story about myself, of course. For those who are tuning in, of course, who know me already, you guys can skip this portion. A little bit of background on myself in college is that I'm the type of person who yearns for an interesting conversation, very deep conversation in terms of, you know,
Like,
uh, it dives down to the molecular level.
yeah,
I don't know. I think in terms of how I perceive the world, I don't know. I'm just speculating because I'm not really a psychologist. I'm just speculating over the years that I've lived. Feel like an old man. For the years that I've gone
heart or
through,
old soul, just like
especially,
me.
yeah. Of course, for those who know my story already, I had in India from 2008 till 2015, I had a long period called the lost years, um, which was the year where just a short background of what the year was is that it was the year where things went south. I mean, when it went south from 0 to 100 in zero point 0.5 seconds. My life crumbled from 2008, and then I forced myself into hiding from communities, and the only conversation that I had was, of course, me and comics. I'm a big fan of comics. If I can talk about comics all day, all night. Been doing my due diligence and studying, and I love Batman. um, and I've spent from, like I said, from 2008 till 2015. It's been me and myself and that conversation, and me myself, of course, and the power of the internet, and yeah, that's been the kind of thing. And then when I came back to society, around 2015, um, of course, it was really hard to adjust my conversation and the things that I do, because from 2008 to 2015, like I said, the conversations was between me and myself, and of course, it was me and my dad when I was in India, and it's just been like that. There's so whenever I try to conversate and share my thoughts to certain people, it's very hard for them to understand me, because of course the conversations, like I said, the conversations that I know about when I speak, when I transcribe my words, it's more like how I speak to my father during those times, and with all the slangs and all these other stuff, because my dad and I, we share one common thing, is we love movies, TV shows, so we adapt the English, I'm sure you know the meaning, let's go out for a grub, which means let's go out for
Yeah.
lunch, or I'm going to go to the John, which is I'm going to go to the toilet. When I say those words to my classmates, they, they have to, I have to
Explain.
break it down to a molecular level, is imagine, when I'm in a group, and then, okay guys, I need to go to the John, you guys handle this business, and then they said, John, what do you mean John? It's very hard to think, and then I have to break it down to the point that, I'm just gonna go to the loo, I'm just gonna go to the CR, and then they understand, oh, okay, CR, why would you just say CR? It's very hard to transcribe my thoughts and my feelings to certain people, hence my reactiveness to certain conversations. And something that I haven't shared is I've been attentive to a lot of people in terms of conversations. True story. I think I've shared this with a couple of friends of mine. Um, my first and second year, we had block classes in UB. So, we had some few couple of breaks here, and then when I go down to the cafeteria to just have lunch or something, um, I sit down with a lot of strangers, strangers from dentistry, strangers from, forensics, because of course there's a lot of people from that building. And then that's how I managed to learn how to speak Tagalog fast. I don't know if you believe me though. I just sit down, I do my business, and then of course your ears cannot shut down. You cannot really shut down your ears on automatic when people are around. So, of course, the way they speak, the way they angle their words, the way they angle their vocabularies, and I kind of I kind of picked up some of that. So if you and I were having conversation, I pick up something. It's like I pick up 10% or 5% of what Venazir says in Tagalog, because that's my weakness. When people go deep into Tagalog stuff, I really I go on panic mode.
Sige, Tagalogin din.
And
Karamihan din.
so yeah. And but in terms of the Tagalog that I've learned, the basic Tagalog, I've picked it up from conversations, from nurses, and like I said, nurses, people from other departments, and and it's been an interesting journey, to be honest. It's a very interesting journey that I picked up. But yeah, coming back to answering the point is why why do I choose intellectual conversations over thing, is that I like to increase my ability to take things out, think out of the box. And when it comes to conversations, I want to have a conversation with someone, and then right after the end of the conversation, either when I'm heading home or I'm walking home, I listen to the conversation in the back of my head and saying, yeah, she has a point, he has a point. That's the thing that I really grinds my gears, if it makes sense. Yeah, it kind of grinds my gears and makes me say, yeah, she has a point, he has a point, and makes me wanna have that conversation with that person about that specific topic or this specific philosophy. That's why I yearn for that intellectual conversation, and that's like my cup of tea, basically, ever since college. That's why I really, if you could tell, I really have less friends. At the most, I only have one. To be honest, I only have one friend by the end of the college life, if I could recall. Not much of the conversation, like I said, not much of the conversation stays. But yeah, That's life, you know.
Well,
That's my side of
I
the
don't
world.
consider everyone my friend. My friends are my family because they are the one who I trust the most. So basically, I don't have friends.
Interesting.
Just my family.
Eh, Interesting. It's so powerful. I love this first half of this conversation. Very, very powerful. Right off the bat, really powerful. Um, but before we get into visual entrepreneur, muralist, and a little bit more about creative, folks, we will have a short break and we will be right back after these few short messages. Do you want to get great deals? Go to Pipe Marketplace. Visit pipenetwork.co/marketplace and use the promo code TRS to get exclusive discounts. Chat with them now. Basta Podcast, Pipe yan.
This is Mike and Ham from Please Pause. Meron kaming munting podcast where we talk about all things TV and film. And despite that, surprisingly, we are still married.
Control freak ka kasi sa podcast na to.
30 seconds lang po ang meron tayo. Pakibilisan.
From blockbusters to classics, superheroes to love teams, hit series to teleseries, join us as we have meaningful and meaningless conversations on the stuff we watched. Someday, mababago ka rin ang tagline na yan.
Check out Please Pause on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and other major podcast platforms.
See you there!
Hey folks, welcome back to the Rajiv show, and what a conversation, folks. I do not know how to describe our first half of this conversation. Depth. Okay, I just learned how to describe it and transcribe it finally. um, Depth, intellectual, philosophical, loving, warm. I don't know how many more words I can add, but those are the words that are coming to my mind as we speak in terms of the quality of the conversation that we had in our first half. And it's amazing. It's phenomenal. And of course, for those, it's legendary Venazir.
Hello.
Uh,
We're not legendary.
you know, I love her energy and I love her vibe. This conversation is amazing. So on the first half, before the ending of the thing, we want to talk about creative visual entrepreneur muralist. I forgot to mention one thing actually is that Venazir mentioned that I mean my guest mentioned that she also dabbled in Taekwondo. Folks, for those who are tuning in, I met Venazir and I am scared to go scrap with her because I don't want to mess with her. She can kick my ass. It was funny. It was funny when I'm just gonna give you guys a backstory on how I accidentally met Venazir. Uh, I'm sorry I had to mention this, Vena, because
No,
I
it's part of everything.
it was it was really unexpected, folks. For those who are tuning, this is an interesting story that you guys would laugh. Um, it was one of these Tuesdays. I don't really remember the day anymore. But it was one of these Tuesdays, and of course, I decided to head to town. And I'm from La Trinidad, and Baguio is at least few hours. An hour tops. Without traffic, it takes 30 minutes to go there. So I decided to visit Baguio. At least for almost 3 weeks, I haven't been, or 3 months, I haven't visited town. And then I went to this lovely place called Ilica, which is one of the best places that it was interesting to me. To be honest, it was an interesting place for those who are tuning in. You gotta go there because they got a lot of the cultural stuff, and it's a combination of a culture. It's a weird place to look at it from afar, but once you're in there and you absorb the artistry and everything, yeah, sing. So during the day, of course, I just went to my friend. We had a conversation, and I decided to go out for chow. So when I decided to drop by Ilika, I went to see some of my folks, some of my artist folks there. And unfortunately, at first I was disappointed because nobody was there. I was looking for, the people that I wanted to see. So I popped by this one cafe area, and then out of the blue, someone recognized me who happened to be my guest. and and
Surprise.
that's where the conversation started. Yeah, it was funny. I didn't expect that because at first I thought it was someone that I knew from college. That was my first impression. But then someone pointed out at me, and then I said, "Oh, okay, me, okay," and then oh, it's her. So
Was I
my
wearing face
my
mask then?
yeah, I was the one wearing face mask, and I was the one who was recognized. So it was kind of yeah, it was really interesting in very very weird thing. And from then on out, I sat down with them, and I think I don't remember how many hours I spoke, but I was pinching myself throughout the entire minute that I was with my guest. And of course, shout out to of course Vena's boyfriend who was there also, and we just connected, we just jived, and we just connected.
Yeah,
So
you were very personal in your stories. You told us about your whole
yeah.
life in like 30 minutes.
Yeah, imagine being 3 months away, and like I said, the conversations is between me and myself. So it is very hard. Somehow you need some form of outlet, and somehow you guys were there at the right time, right space, right head space, and yeah, that was how I met my guest. And prior to that, I think a week prior to that conversation, it was really interesting that we had a catch up. So I assumed that my guest was out of town, and then surprise, she was there, and then that's how. Yeah, I'm still pinching myself after that conversation. Now I'm a little bit more relaxed because I think this is our third conversation. But yeah, those first two conversations, they were more traumatizing to me because mostly I didn't know what to say.
Right? This gave us a chance to know more about each other. That's why it
Yeah.
has a good ring to it. Anyway,
And yeah, I wanted to add a little bit more story for those who are tuning in. I hope you don't mind. I'm sorry if I'm going to add this story as well. I mentioned this, of course, when they were having lunch. I had a different impression of how I was going to meet my guest. I hope you don't mind if I extend the story,
yeah, sure.
Vena. um, the first time I reached out to Venazir, this was on Facebook. I don't know, 5 decades ago. It felt like 5 decades ago with the pandemic, and my impression of how I was gonna meet. I had this visual dream that on how I was gonna meet my guest, and I don't know why it had to be the happiest place in the Philippines of all places. It's just simple story is that I was gonna do a vlog, and then I was gonna do a vlog, and then we were gonna catch up in Jollibee, happiest place in Baguio and in the Philippines. So that was I mentioned this to my guest as well, and I don't know why that was in my head, but yeah, you know, catching up with her in Ilican, it was also the happiest place, the most
Yeah,
creative place.
happiest place in
But
Baguio.
yeah, that was just
Pilipinas.
that was the happiest and creativist place in thing. If there's a word for it, creativist is the thing.
Creativist.
I'm gonna own that.
Creativist.
So yeah, coming back to the conversation. Taekwondo.
Oh yeah, take one.
What's the story there?
How do I
Well,
start it? It's really an entrenched history, entrenched narrative in me. His taekwondo. Although a lot of my peers don't know about my historical note about taekwondo. I started back when I was in about 4 years old. When I was about 4 years old, and I started practicing taekwondo. I'm not officially a part of the team, but because of my sibling, my dad really insisted training us at a young age to be part of the taekwondo team in Tarlac. And so yeah, I think that sparked my interest in martial arts as a whole. And so when I was and then growing up, I never erased my taekwondo blood. You know, elementary, high school, college, I represented my university, my school, my region in taking part
Mm.
of competitions. So, as you all know, I am a black belt in taekwondo, and um, I also won lots of gold. Not to brag, but yeah, part
Wow.
of my history is that I am really, uh, all of us, my siblings and I, are competitors of the Philippine Taekwondo Association. And um, I stopped when I started focusing on my career. And I think being a taekwondo player enriched my knowledge in life. I think because it promoted self discipline, having an indomitable spirit, having this perseverance to push forward whenever things get shit. So I think
Mm.
taekwondo played a big role in enriching my individuality as a person. My dogs are fighting. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, taekwondo did that, and since I love martial arts so much, I engaged in other forms of martial arts like aikido, a Japanese martial arts. But instead of the traditional aikido, I engaged in
Mm.
um, the street style Filipino martial arts aikido. It's called tapondo. So I'm part of the Tapondo International Federation. It is um, yeah, it's basically I like aikido, but you can take down enemies um, using their force. So it's like that. And since then,
Interesting.
I've been really active in um, how do you do this? I've been really active in physical activities such as those um, rigid trainings from Taekwondo. But recently, I've stopped in training
Mm.
because priorities change. So I just kick and punch for 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 the sake of fitness and health. So it's not really for the competition, uh, for the goal of acing a competition. No, no longer that. But I miss those days. I miss those days of getting that gold and kicking ass. Especially those competitors who have such big heads. We said. Oo, ang dami kasing gano'n.
Interesting.
You're competing against other regions, and um it's fun. Sad lang na I never
Interesting.
reached that international level because excuse me, I have
Well, it, yeah, it's really fascinating. I have a follow up question in terms of that competitive um, nature,
yeah.
but I think you mentioned it already. You know, the competitive nature was, of course, you had an objective and stuff like that. I've had some couple of guests who happen to also be sports, and I have this question that I had in mind in terms of getting into the field, getting into the game. I'm just curious because I've seen the documentary, The Last Dance, and Tiger Woods documentary. The greatest of all time, Michael Jordan,
Yes.
Tiger Woods, and uh, I saw this documentary of a UK boxer named Chris Eubank, and very very deep. very deep, interesting conversationalist, and the way he philosophized the sports of boxing really blew my mind. And I have tremendous respect for Chris Eubank. I'm just curious. Um, the I'm just curious when it comes to the sport. Before you get into the ring or you get into the mat, did you have the same kind of form of ritual where the Kobe Bryant or the Michael Jordan, where
Do I have a ritual?
I'm gonna kill this guy in this game?
Um,
Did you have that kind of stuff?
no, normally I don't. Just I used to have one. I don't consider it as a ritual. Rather, I
Hmm.
I'm focusing on my mind, my cognitive space, and I'm talking to myself. I guess that's my ritual. I'm talking to myself. I am planning. I am planning my attacks, my defense before I get into the game. And I don't eat before I before. Yeah,
Hmm.
I don't eat because it makes me sick, makes me nauseous. If I eat, if I eat and
Hmm.
then I engage into battle. So I don't really have that ritual because I I quit a long time ago, so I don't have that kind of mindset. Because my when I was in college, I only engaged in a battle twice. I think
Yeah.
and while representing UP system, and
Yeah.
I won the national, but not gold. So I just I represented Cordillera region, but I brought home bronze. So it's not really that celebrated.
But the fact that you competed and you've got the thing, it really shows for it. I mean, major respect, major love and respect for that.
Yeah,
It
not a lot of
really
people know that
fascinating.
my history. They just know that I am an artist.
And guys, for those who are tuning, for those who are tuning in, this is some hot special taekwondo stuff. This is from the Rajiv show. You never get this any other podcast ever.
Of course, because they don't ask for it.
So, transitioning taekwondo, the art of fighting, into the art of art, muralist entrepreneurship. How did that? How did that start? I'm sure I'm aware. I'm aware that you're a graduate of UP Baguio, and finance. Finance. I mean, fine art. Why did I say finance? Fine art.
It can
Majored
find.
in fine art. Yeah, and of course, legend. You've painted a lot of the famous places here in military cut off. If I'm right, if I'm wrong, please correct me. Military cut off, and what's that other one? The
PNR.
jeepney stand near
Yeah,
PNR. Yes, PNR. Military cut off, and hopefully somewhere down the line there's some amazing projects along the way that we're gonna enjoy. And I gotta ask though, um, what made you enjoy walls? I don't know how I'm gonna formulate the question,
go,
but what
go,
made you
go.
enjoy walls of all the? What made you enjoy walls more than canvas is my curious question in terms of artistry, in terms of the thing.
To put it
I
simply,
know it's a
because
weird question to ask, but I had to.
yeah, to put it simply, I enjoyed challenging myself a lot. Back when I was in college, when I was a student in fine arts, um, all of my plates or my projects, my academic requirements, um, as much as possible, I make it a, a lot harder than it should be, than how it should be. compared to my other classmates. So basically, I'm that competitive. You know, I've um, I've honed that nature, but in a way that it's kind of a healthy competitive. So I think I'm still at bay. My my competitiveness is still bearable, but that's one of my personalities. And I I like large scale paintings. Whenever my professors ask us to paint something, I'll paint it a lot bigger than the others, and it excites me. And knowing that street art involves a lot of elements, a lot of externalities, and the fact that I know how to define myself in the streets, um, yeah, that pushed me further in engaging into the street art realm, and I fell in love ever since. That was 2017. I did my first street art, and I like how the reactions of the community, the locality, um, provided. I like how the locality provided that kind of validation towards my work. Although personally, I don't like how it was made before, because I don't really know how to scale subjects before, and but still people appreciate a lot. And for the what's this specific moment that I fell there's this specific moment that I fell in love with street art, and that was the engagement of the normal people. When I say normal, the jeepney drivers, yung mga hindi pumupunta sa mga museums, sa galleries, sa mga art exhibits. So the fact that they're the ones who are curious as to why I do those things, as to why I did that street art, they're the ones who were with me all throughout. And I liked how the conversation went, even though it's not that deep when it comes to the conversation, but the fact that the moment they ask about the content of my work, that's when it hit me na I'm gonna continue doing murals in the streets, because it gives them the joy, it provided an avenue of extended, how do you do this, visual spatial intelligence. That's how I say things. But street art provided I lost my train of thought. Well, basically, street art.
Take your time. Take your time.
Street art is basically a democratic tool for us to learn, regardless of what's our educational background or status in life. You can always find that sense of meaning in that visual art in the streets. Public art provided a very, very important and significant guide towards I don't know what I'm saying. Nawala ako. Yeah, but basically, street art, it's a powerful tool it's a powerful learning tool. And the fact that the jeepney drivers were curious about my content, that gave me the power to pursue murals in the streets. So yeah.
Powerful. I'm blown away.
Thank you.
I don't know. I don't know what to I don't know what to follow up there because I when I saw the thing when I saw the artwork, I mean, it is phenomenal. I mean, especially the one in PNR, which is quite high. For those who are tuning in, you guys could go up to Google Maps. I think the artwork is updated in Google Maps. Or if you guys
Yeah,
are in Baguio, come to Baguio and go to PNR. Google Maps will help you find your way. And yeah, I mean, it's just blown away. I'm proud of the fact that when I saw in my homepage on my Facebook homepage, I'm proud of the fact that my guests got to have a conversation with one of our legendary idols, which is Angel Locsin, and I think that was in the year 2020.
yeah.
So
Actually, it's
I'm just so
2021.
proud. Oh really? Oh yeah,
Yeah,
man. I'm getting old, I guess. Yeah, it's been. I need to get out of the house more often.
that long. No?
But yeah, uh, yeah, it's phenomenal, and much love to the fact that Angel Locsin was there and you had a conversation. It was mind blowing, mind blowing to have a
Yeah,
conversation with the person who had a conversation with my idol as well. So it's just I don't know what to say aside from mind blowing and interesting. So yeah, um, yeah, I'm actually thinking of a question, and the question that I have in terms of the craft. Um, yeah, I'm sure there are going to be some young muralists who would love to learn the craft. What are your thoughts and advices who for those people who you really want to understand how to scale a wall and paint a wall and
the
create that
basics of
beautiful
mural
artwork
making.
that you've yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't think there's an exact chemistry with regards to how you how you face your career development. But for me, for me, it's all about kapal ng muka. Confidence in yourself. Of course, in order for you to be confident, you have to be constantly learning every day, and that's how you face struggles. That's how you face obstacles in life, and I think you have to have that sense of intentionality when it comes to your craft, because without that
Mm,
intention, that artistic intention of redeveloping and constantly improving yourself, hindi mo makakamit ang gusto mo. And for example, one instance na nagpatunay na intentionality is really important. That wall in PNR, I have been planning it for about 2 years. It's not a really a one-time big time project. It is
mm,
it it takes years to plan that wall, and not just the permits, not just the grant that I received. It's
mm,
not just the design. It's that um how do you it's that creative momentum that you need to constantly tap into. Gets mo ba? Kasi
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
ako kasi I normally on days like this, for example, I get lost a lot, and there are
Mm,
days that I don't want to work. There are days that I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to involve myself into others' um, activities, and that's okay. You have to
mm,
you have to have that um, safe space within you, that it's okay to miss out things, and what is important is that you have that focus, you have that goal, you have that small goals, to-do list that you can achieve in such a period of time. So in the end, you'll achieve that bigger that bigger picture um that you wanted to pursue. So ayun, I think that's how I did it. You know, I I imagine I always imagine of what my future will look like a week from now, a day from now, a month from now. And although it will not turn out how I planned it, okay lang. Kasi
Hmm.
learn along the way. So, of course, that's one intentionality. Number two, your connections. Connections is very important, and to you have to how do I say this? You have to take care of your relationships with others. You know, you don't just trash people away. Although if that person is toxic and it doesn't give you any it doesn't do you any better. Uh, you have to learn how to cut people off kasi hindi siya maganda sa mental health mo. And
Hmm.
you'll know the relationships na you'll have this ability to, how do I say this? You'll have this ability to realize blanketed opportunities along with that person. So for example, ako yung mga clients ko, I treat them as my family. Kinukumusta ko siya. Kinukumusta ko ang mga clients ko regularly. And you'll know how to keep in touch with people once you're in the professional arena. So that's it, because you'll in the end, although you have to trust yourself, you have to learn how to trust other people as well, because they will help you in getting there in your in sorry, lost my train of thought. They will help you in life. So yeah, client relationships is important, and planning ahead, and what else? Yeah, you always have to constantly learn every day, every single day. So I think that's it.
Interesting. Before we wrap this conversation off, of course, I'm sure this conversation has been phenomenal, iconic, legendary. Um, I'm running out of words to add into that space of how this conversation is to me. Intellectual, deep, is very, very, so many words that I could come up with. Um, of course, um, is there a legendary Venazir Martinez, Venazir and wait, did I say it right? Venazir Annie Martinez
Hannah.
quote. Hannah, sorry, Hannah. Oh, I got it close. I got it close. Is there is there a Venazir Hannah Martinez quotation that you live by on a daily basis from the moment you wake up till probably when sundown, when you sleep?
If there's a quote that I would like to share to everyone, that is um, a strong showcase of identity is to have power over our own lives. I guess that's it.
Amazing. I mean, amazing. I'm blown away. I'm blown away. From the beginning towards the end of this conversation, I feel bad that every time we end this conversation, I feel like I'm gonna get back into the introverted roots again. But all I can say is that this has been a blast, and what else can I follow up with? This has been a blast. There's there's nothing much that I could say.
Yeah.
Like I said, this is a huge honor.
Thank you, Reggie.
This is a huge honor having you on my show.
This is also a huge honor to be part of your show, and I believe ako ba yung 50th? Just ako ba? Or 50? What am I again?
You're the 55th.
Oh yeah, okay, sorry. I'm the 55th. All right.
So, of course, before we wrap up this conversation, as mentioned, of course, some of my listeners would love to connect with you via social media. How would they find you on social media?
Yeah, you can follow me on Facebook. I'm really I normally reply. pero usually it's about, it's about pag may project and all. But, you can always chat me up. Or in Instagram at Venazir Martinez. Basically, yeah, just my whole name in Facebook and in Instagram. And you can send me an email, vhannahmartinez@gmail.com. And, yep, I guess that's where you can chat me or send me a message. If you want to collaborate, I'm really open to that. And yeah, thank you, Rajiv, for having me in your lovely show.
Thank you so much for saying yes to me. Of course, guys, for those who are tuning in, never be scared. At first, like I said, when I reached out to Venazir, I was scared at first, and then I found out that she's as interesting as I am in terms of characteristics and personality. So she doesn't bite. So yeah,
It only kick.
had to emphasize that. Yeah. A- and yeah, I mean, she's got the height, guys. She's got the height. I kid you not. She
Yeah,
can
so
really kick your head clean off. So I wanna say thank you, Venazir, for being a part of my show. Hopefully, down the line in the upcoming seasons and upcoming collaborations, I'd love to have a roundtable conversation with you. And I'm also looking forward to having a conversation with your best friend, which is, of course, Jill and Hanjong, who
yeah,
happen to be my director and, of course, who made this legendary movie called 10,000 Errors. We're going to talk about that in that season. Sorry, in that episode. And yeah, I want to say thank you for being a part of my show. Like I said, thank you so much, Venazir,
thank you so much.
for having this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
And for those who are tuning in, cheers, folks. I will see you in the next episode.